What's up guys, it's Merlin, and in this video I want to go through part of the TWAB, and it concerns some super altering stuff, majigger things. Anyway, so there's a good few that are getting a damage increase, and some that are getting just a small damage decrease. I'm sure you guys can guess what are getting the damage decrease. So for the increases, we've got 2 trees in Golden Gun, 3-shot and 6-shot that are getting like these are all the increases, by the way. Sorry, Golden Gun, 3-shot and 6-shot, Shadow Shot, the Mobius Quiver Tree, Arc Staff as a whole, Burning Maul as a whole, the Hammer of Sol, Code of the Siegebreaker, the Fist of Havoc, Sentinel Shield, Nova Bomb, the Catalysm and Vortex trees, and Daybreak are all getting damage increases. The decreases are, of course, Blade Barrage and Nova Warp. Now, I'll get into those in a bit. For all the hunters out there, I know there's a lot of hunters from what I've seen in the Crucible. Golden Gun, 6-shooter kills with 6-shooter kills will return a bullet. It doesn't say anything about the super being extended, so you're still locked into like that. I think it's 6 or 8 seconds or something like that. But if you're getting kills with your 6-shot, you could get a free 3 kills in like 2 seconds max. So you've got another like 4 to 6 seconds and still 6 more shots to use. The Practice Makes Perfect super regen is being increased for I think bottom tree, the 3-shot. Blade Barrage, the damage is now heavily weighted on the delayed explosion instead of the knife impact. It'll now deal self-damage if the knives explode too close to the Blade Barrage user. So it's going to be kind of like using a rocket launcher, thankfully. And apparently there was a bug where the knives would track allies. I didn't know about this one, so that's being fixed as well. There's a couple of notes with each of these as well. The one under the Hunters is, this Golden Gun change brings increased uptime for your super. So that's referring to the extra bullet you get with 6-shot. For the way of the Outlaw, this means you've got more of a skill-based mechanic to extend it. And for way of the Sharpshooter, it's the ability to earn your super back more quickly. Moving on to Night Stalker, the Mobius Quiver, getting the damage increase. The entire damage bonus is applied on the first hit instead of stacking and multiplying. So I'm not sure if that's just like your Mobius Quiver is going to deal more damage per arrow, like how tethers used to kill in D1 on impact, instead of like shooting someone, them getting tethered, then the second arrow kills them. They're increasing the tether radius and lifetime as well. They're also making it easier to fire successive tethers. Sorry if I stumble a bit. It's quite cold in the room at the moment, and I haven't got a sweater anywhere near me. Spectral Blades, damage resistance in stealth is decreased. I'm not disappointed in that. The duration of super while invisible is being slightly decreased, and I'm also not. I don't have a problem with that at all. Me and the clanmate tested this. It lasts longer than Nova Bomb, and people are complaining left and right about Nova Bomb lasting forever, and it's a noticeable difference between the two. Notes. This is step 1 for Shadow Shot. They intend to keep improving the way it works. For this pass, they focused on Mobius Quiver's quality of life. Moving on to Arc Strider. Super damage is now heavily weighted towards the heavy palm strike attack, i.e. no attack damage was reduced, but much of the added damage for the super went into the heavy attack, which is cool. I'm not a massive Arc Strider user when I do go on my Hunter. I know a clanmate of mine is, so it'd be interesting to see how he feels about this one. Lethal Current bonus damage is now increased. Not 100% on what the Lethal Current is. I think that is the Palm Strike, but don't quote me on that. Moving on to the Titans. Sunbreaker changes. Sunspots. They've doubled the damage of the burn on enemies from sunspots. It's cool. You see very few bottom tree Sunbreakers, so it's cool to see that increase and giving them some love. Sun Warrior. buff length increased from 3 seconds to 5. Again, I don't think I use Sun Warrior. I think that's for bottom tree where you stand in your sunspot, you get a bit more of a buff in standing in those sunspots, and now it's going to last even longer. They're also with the Sun Warrior perk, they're also now increasing all outgoing damage. Burning Maul, very few of these you'd see in the Crucible. Never would you see them in competitive. They're increasing the slam radius as well, and they're increasing the slam fire tornado homing. It's gonna lock onto a bit better. Just cool. Good to see them getting a bit more viability increase. Moving on to Sentinel. What they're changing, super damage is now heavily weighted on the heavy shield charge attack. Again, no damage is reduced, but much of the added damage for the super went into the heavy attack. So it's going to do less on those smaller swings and more on the third swing. For the Striker, changes to terminal velocity. There's now 3 tiers of hang time. The amount of hang time for each tier has been reworked. Each tier of hang time now causes 4 damage shocks instead of 3, and the damage for the hang time bonuses has been increased significantly. Changes to Trample. The light shoulder attack super cost now been reduced by 85%. Like, I've seen a lot of people using the what looks like just a normal shoulder charge when they're in super. They're gonna do that so much more. Trample now triggers every 0.5 seconds, and that's been decreased from 1 second, so it's going to be happening twice as much. Couple of notes for the Titans. Code of the Earthshaker. The change to terminal velocity should make it more engaging. The first tier is now easier to achieve. For the second tier, you'll probably want some high ground, but if you have started on flatland, a directional slam near the peak of your lift can proc it. Finally, there's a third tier that requires some serious height to activate. On top of that, you will need to land your hang time slams, but do it quickly enough to get in all 4 possible to maximize damage. With Court of the Juggernaut, if you play right, you can extend your super for minutes in PvE. In PvE, don't worry guys, we're not going to have a Titan version of a Spectral Blades, which I know can last for a couple of minutes. I know this sounds crazy, but it takes foresight and strategy and strategic choices. The light shoulder attack is almost a movement mode with the new cheaper cost. With the increased mobility, you should be able to lay some shoulder on bigger targets, and then run away little guys to rebuild your super energy. Moving on to the Warlock, hashtag Master Race. Dawnblade super duration is increased, which is good. You're going to be able to sling hopefully a couple more blades rather than just like 1, because at the moment it's maximum 7, I think, or 8, and that really doesn't count for much when there's not a whole lot of damage being done, because it takes maybe 2 or 3 hits to kill pretty much any of the super. But it is getting a damage increase, so hopefully that'll decrease the amount of ones I'll need to use and be able to use a couple more. Moving on to Voidwalker, changes to Cataclysm. They've increased the detonation radius, which is cool. Cluster damage is being increased, and they've improved the cluster bomb homing to make it more consistent against single targets. Cluster bombs no longer detonate one another as well. I didn't know they did, so that's cool to know that they're changing that. For Vortex, the Ligner damage increased significantly. The Linger damage is increased significantly, so it's going to take a lot for a lot more than it would before. Nova Warp, slower movement while charging. I'm not disappointed with that. That's a cool thing, and I think it's reasonable change. The charging costs more energy and overall duration is reduced. Okay, so you're going to get less off. Damage resistance reduced slightly, very slightly, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, you really need to team shoot them to take them out, so that's fair. And PvP damage reduction. Charge to detonation will no longer be able to one-shot another player in their super, provided it has damage resistance. I've been getting one shot by Nova Warps from the very edge of their charged blast in my Dawn Blade, and it is so frustrating. Notes: summed up, Nova Bomb is now not just for large groups. The Nova Warp changes above are all small, but we think together they will help to bring it down to a good place, a place similar to the supers that we're raising up. Stormcaller. And changes to Storm Trance. They've increased the number of targets for Chain Lightning by 1, which is cool. It's nice to see that Stormcaller's getting some love. They haven't really had any changes to them in quite a while. These are all changes that are coming on the 29th, which is Tuesday, 2 weeks. On to Crucible Matchmaking, which is something that I'm glad they're doing. Starting on the 15th, so that's this coming reset. They're changing they're adjusting the matchmaking settings in competitive. They're changing matchmaking parameters, so comparing things to find you matches, so that opponents you find in competitive matchmaking will be closer to your glory rank. While imbalanced matches can still happen, they believe that the change will reduce the amount of times this happens dramatically. Players may experience longer matchmaking times as they try to ensure a good glory rank match before opening up search criteria. So yeah, that's good. So it might take a little longer to find someone in your range, especially the longer you go up, because there's fewer and fewer people up there. But you won't be matched with those people who are out of your league. Like if you're 5,500, you likely won't be matching against people who are 3,000 anymore, or at least half as often. And I've run into too many like that myself. It's not easy. And again, vice versa. If you're sub fabled, the likelihood of you going up against someone who's got Not Forgotten this season is unlikely. So that's everything for the TWAB this week regarding super changes and matchmaking changes. Thanks for watching, and good luck in the Crucible.